What's going on, everybody? It's Devontae back with yet another video. And today is another episode of The Artificial Struggle. The artificial in the title stands for a made up algorithm, something that we architect. And struggle stands for the psyche, the framework that we have that projects our reality onto the world. Today's episode, I want to go over why I believe suffering is meaningless. I think that suffering is meaningless, and when we give it and attribute meaning to it, it's for our own psychological comfort. Things like religion, self help, motivation, things of that nature are all things that we use to ascribe meaning to things that have none. Is we'll try to, like I said, ascribe these esoteric meanings to things that are happening to us. But let's explain famine in certain areas. Let's explain why people suffer and having to work in terrible conditions like the mines and the railroads or mineral mines, victims of violent crimes, animals who are tortured for no reason. There is no meaning to their suffering. It just happens. Oh, there's no greater purpose that they're serving by suffering that way. I think ascribing meaning to suffering avoids the idea that life itself is meaningless, and people don't want to confront that possibility because there would be mass suicide. Everyone would cease to try. Ascribing meaning to suffering further proves that only your beliefs are reality. And what I mean by that is we project what we believe. We don't see proof of what we believe in reality. We ascribe that meaning. We project that meaning. And then we give ourselves confirmation bias when things happen as expected or even as unexpected. I've seen a lot of religious people sort of twist situations into scripture to make it seem as though this thing was planned. They were ordained for this struggle. I don't believe that that's true. I believe that is a psychological coping mechanism with the lack of meaning in life. And there is nothing wrong with needing to do that. Whatever produces the results, by all means, just get it done. So if you living by the faith is something that gets the work done, then by all means. If it makes you a kind person, then by all means. The issue I have is, like I said, with the confirmation bias being used, certain scriptures being used to fit situations, and they think that that was prophecy, when in reality it's just cherry picking of situations, scriptures, and just confirmation bias. There is no reward at the end for your suffering. So this is something obviously that religion is a very big proponent of, is that there's a reward for this. I don't believe so. I think that there are people who suffered horrible, gruesome deaths. And a lot of them, I had the displeasure, if that's a word, of seeing online. There's a lot of terrible things that happen to people, and even accidents, just tragic accidents, and there's no reward for that. They don't get a golden trophy at the end of their lifespan for having gone through some of the worst things. You thought that you were suffering whenever you were working menial jobs, wherein there is, like I said, someone suffering in a mine right now, and they're not going to have this revelation story. Like, is God only in America? Is God only in America? Is self help only in the Western part of the world? Is motivation only here? And of course, they're not. There are other nations that have that. But I think about the less fortunate, the unfortunate in different areas. And it's like, are these things just absent there? All the corruption happening, not only on our own soil, but in other places. You have to take these things into consideration. Is that suffering for a reason? Not because of cause and effect. I don't want you to tell me the cause. Does it have a grand plan at the end? And to think so, I think, is a bit of spiritual or emotional immaturity. But if it gives your life meaning, then who am I to judge you for that? I'm just here to state that I believe that suffering is meaningless. I'll leave everybody with a quote, and you let me know what you think. The quote is by Viktor E. Frankl, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Suffering, in and of itself, is meaningless. We give our suffering meaning by the way in which we respond to it. And in that, I can sort of empathize with why people attribute meaning to their suffering, is because maybe we are too weak, too incapable unfit to deal with the cold reality that might actually exist. And in that quote, I can empathize with giving meaning to our suffering. But if you ask me what I really believe, it's still that your suffering is meaningless. This has been The Artificial Struggle. I hope you like, comment, subscribe, and if you have any ideas for what you want to see next, please let me know. Stay tuned.